I do not know how, uh, oops, good Monday morning. I have some friends that'll call me and they'll say, good Monday morning. They're just being smarty pants. I do not know how this could not be anybody's favorite time of day. I'm just saying. Like if you miss the sunrise, if you think the sun only comes up one time a day, you're missing much. This is my favorite time of the day. And when I see that first glimpse of the sun coming over the horizon, like it is right here behind me, there's an old Phillips Craig and Dean song that says there's a little bit of morning outside. And you need to listen to it. It's an old song, but it's like one of my all-time favorite songs. And it's talking about even in the darkest moments of our life, there's a little bit of morning outside. And it really is so true because Jesus is always up in the hard places, promising in the life of a believer to turn them for good. And I'm sure you're like me. If you're not walking through a challenging storm right now in your own life, then you know someone who is. I have a precious friend who lost her husband about 6 months ago, and she's traversing new ground and new territory, and she's learning how to do things she hasn't had to do. I mean, she married him at 18. And so her life is upside down right now. But even in the middle of the challenges of life, there's a little bit of morning outside. I have another friend who's walking through an exceptional health crisis that came from out of the blue, that has had her a doctor after doctor after doctor. What used to be a vibrant, healthy life now is this life that's being lived in fear, and she doesn't drive anymore. She doesn't go anywhere alone anymore, and her whole life has been turned upside down. But we have a promise that there is still a little bit of morning outside. Jesus talks about mourning a lot. He says, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. He talks about how the mercies of the Lord are new every morning. Isn't that true? Can't you go to bed sometimes and wake up and you're stressed out, and you wake up that next morning and it's like God can give you a fresh pair of eyes. The darkness feels like it's lifted, and it feels like there's a little bit of morning outside. Because there is. When Jesus is present, he is always working good for you, even in the most painful circumstances of your life. We've all had them. We all know what they are. And some of them linger longer than others. But it doesn't mean that Jesus isn't working in them if we allow him to. You know, I tell people often that it was the greatest loss in my life, which was the loss of my marriage. And honestly, some days it feels like not having children of my own feels like the even greater loss in my life. But God has given me such wonderful surrogate spiritual children and nieces and a nephew that I adore, and he's given me bonus children to love. But a ministry was birthed out of the loss of my marriage. So I think it's always a good question in the quiet moments that are the darkest, right before the morning comes to light. To know that God very well may take the darkest season, the most painful pieces of your story, and breathe life into others because of them. He just has a way of working all things together for our good. So I don't know how dark it may be today for you, but I do know this: joy comes in the morning, and there's always a little bit of morning outside.